It's Friday, February 14th, 2025. Happy Valentine's Day. Welcome to episode 141 of the Alameda Postcast, an audio service of the Alameda Post. I'm your host, Scott Bueller. In this edition of the Postcast, the Planning Board addresses short-term rentals. Thieves hit a new low on Park Street. A sad update to last week's Coast Guard story. Seaplane Lagoon hosts an old friend and hits the 1 million passenger mark. Birds on the beach. A dog rescue to warm your heart. Celebrating QTAC. Suggestions for your Valentine's Day weekend. And get ready for Restaurant Week. These stories and more on this episode of the Alameda Postcast. Our top story. On Monday the 10th, the Planning Board held a public workshop to guide staff on drafting a short-term rental ordinance. These are rentals that last under 30 days. Think Airbnb or Vrbo. Alameda's 2023 to 2031 housing element calls for limiting short-term rentals, arguing that they reduce the supply of long-term housing units for sale or rent. However, public comment overwhelmingly supported short-term rentals, noting benefits to the local economy, flexible community-centered accommodations, particularly for short-term workers and visiting families, and flexibility for small landlords to both supplement their income and accommodate personal uses. Planning Services Manager Steve Buckley introduced the proposed ordinance, arguing that while short-term rentals offer homeowners financial opportunities, they can impact neighborhoods through noise, parking, trash, and reduce the availability of long-term rental housing. Alameda lacks zoning regulations for short-term rentals, treating them similarly to hotels in terms of taxation. Short-term rental hosts must collect and remit a 14% transient occupancy tax to the city. Right now, that tax provides a total of $700,000 a year. However, compliance is inconsistent, especially for those renting outside of the platforms like Airbnb and Vrbo. Surrounding cities have a patchwork of rules regarding the short-term rentals, and the rules vary depending on whether the owner occupies the same living unit as the renter. Planning, Building, and Transportation Director Alan Ty noted that staff was approaching the ordinance more as a regulation on the short-term rental platforms rather than the individual hosts, saying, quote, "Our goal wasn't to burden our local hosts, but to hold the platforms accountable by ensuring good neighbor policies are in place as a condition of allowing a host to provide their unit on the platform." End quote. Again, public comment was overwhelmingly in support of the short-term rentals. Sheila, a retiree, says she owns a duplex, lives in the upstairs unit, and rents out the downstairs unit, most often to visiting relatives of her neighbors. She noted, quote, "I would have a hard time making ends meet if I was limited on how long I could rent." End quote. The staff will now consider public and board feedback as they begin drafting an ordinance and expects to bring recommendations and a draft ordinance to the Planning Board in the summer and to the City Council in the fall. For full details and further commentary, see Karen Jensen's article at alamedapost.com/news. At around 11:30 a.m. on Super Bowl Sunday, two troop parents for a local Girl Scout troop were setting up outside Fixkew Barbecue for the troop to sell cookies. That was when someone brazenly stole 48 boxes of Caramel Delight cookies valued at around $350. As if that wasn't bad enough, the troop is a Daisy Troop, which is a troop for the youngest participants, kindergarten and first grade. The troop relocated their booth to a nearby park, and as is often the case, the community did respond. The online Alameda Peeps community raised hundreds of dollars for the troop, and if you'd like to help the Daisies out, you'll find them selling cookies on weekend afternoons at 2151 Buena Vista, which is near McKinley Park. For details on the story, see Kelsey Gore's article at alamedapost.com/news. Last week on the Postcast, I reported on the search for a missing crew member of the Coast Guard cutter Weishi. Weishi is based out of Alameda, and you'll know it as ship number 751 when docked at Coast Guard Island. Sadly, on Saturday, after an intensive 5-day search covering 19,000 nautical square miles of the Pacific near Mexico, the search was called off. This was reported by the U.S. Naval Institute on their usni.org website. The missing seaman is 23-year-old Brian Lee of Rancho Cordova. Multiple vessels and aircraft from both the U.S. and Mexico were involved in the search, but ultimately Seaman Lee was never found. Our condolences to his family, friends, and shipmates. In happier nautical news, Seaplane Lagoon had a visit from an old friend on Super Bowl Sunday. After engine issue delays in December, the flying boat Philippine Mars touched down around 4 p.m. on Sunday. The last of the 7 Martin JRM Mars aircraft, which were built for cargo hauling near the end of World War II, the Philippine Mars was based at the Alameda Naval Air Station. After the war, the Philippine and her 3 surviving sisters were converted to firefighting craft in British Columbia. On Monday, the Philippine Mars was towed out to the bay to begin its final journey, a roughly 600-mile flight to Lake Pleasant, Arizona. The Philippine was honored with a water salute from an Alameda fireboat, and by noon was on the way to Arizona. After her successful final landing on Lake Pleasant, the plane will be dismantled and transported 150 miles south to Tucson, where the craft will be on permanent display at the Pima Air and Space Museum. For a look at this big bird, see alamedapost.com/news. Speaking of Seaplane Lagoon, congratulations to the San Francisco Bay Ferry on Wednesday. SF Bay Ferry and Alameda Mayor Marilyn Ezzy Ashcraft announced that the Seaplane Ferry route had welcomed its 1 millionth passenger since the opening on July 1st of 2021. Not bad for a route that only operates 5 days a week. On average, Seaplane sees 1,500 riders a day, the second busiest weekday route in the system after Vallejo. Elsewhere along the coastline, you might have noticed some roped-off areas on the beaches between Coral Reef and Sand Beach Streets on Shoreline. Those are areas where the endangered snowy plover is spending the winter. Obviously, they don't always obey the ropes, so you can find them all along the shore from Crab Cove to the bird sanctuary. The snowy plover is threatened with only about 2,500 individuals existing along the west coast from Washington State through Baja. The plovers don't nest here, but Alameda is a crucial stop on their migratory journey. Since they are essentially resting, it is important that they be left alone since they need to conserve energy for the next part of their journey. Snowy plovers are sometimes confused with other plover species, but we've got some pictures courtesy of Rick Lewis to help you tell the difference. To me, they look a lot like the main character from the Pixar short film Piper. To learn more about our, dare I say, snowbird visitors, see Cheryl Embry's article at alamedapost.com/features. From feathers to fur, a heartwarming story of a dog rescue. For about a week, a stray brown dog had evaded capture across Alameda. Despite the best efforts of our animal control officers Elena Inesco and Emily Crum, this skittish pup kept pulling a Houdini. Last weekend, a team assembled and began a mission straight out of Ocean's 11 to finally get the dog to safety. From Ralph Apposado to Waterfront Park to actually in Seaplane Lagoon, the dog was determined to avoid the people trying to help her. Thanks to multiple people, kayaks, and the dog finally lying down on the shore, Officer Crum was able to snare the animal and bring her to safety. The dog was in remarkably good shape, and after food, water, and some sleep, the escape artist was named Ariel and now awaits adoption at FOZ. This weekend in our features section, we'll have a complete look at the rescue story, plus some pictures of Ariel. Warning, her face might just have you reaching for the adoption application link. Back in episode 124 in October, we told you about the opening of the LGBTQ drop-in center for Alameda teens at Underground Teen Center. On Monday, the center held an open house. Now known as QTAC, the Queer Teen Alameda Center was the recipient of a $10,000 check from County Supervisor Lena Tam. QTAC is open the second Friday of each month from 6 to 9 p.m. and has seen more than 25 teens since opening. Alameda Pride founder and president Jeremy Andehusen praised the center as, quote, a place to feel safe and inclusive in a diverse world, end quote. For a look at the festivities, including pictures and quotes from attendees, see Gene Chen's article at alamedapost.com/features. Speaking of good works, congrats to the Alameda Kiwanis Club. Their annual chili cook-off on February 1st raised over $20,000 for local charities. The winner of the cook-off, Park Street Tavern. Patricia Bowen breaks down the winners at alamedapost.com/features. With Valentine's Day weekend upon us, there are many choices for where to take your beloved. Amanda Laird has rounded up some great suggestions in her weekly all-around Alameda column. A Valentine's Day dance on the Hornet, a dinner cruise on the Lux Line, a salsa dance class, and partner yoga are all in the offing. Check them out at alamedapost.com/features. By the way, if you need a quick Valentine's card, head to alamedapost.com/op-ed. Two birds from Alameda have you covered. Time to save the date for Restaurant Week. It's coming up March 14th through the 23rd with an all-ages kickoff Thursday, March 13th at Faction Brewing. We'll have a full preview coming up next week in our features section. Looking at additional activities, we head to 94501.info. Grand Horizons continues at Altarena Playhouse. Farmers Market Saturday and Tuesday from 9 until 1. Get an exclusive sneak peek at Carica's North Course on Sunday. And the Open Basketball Gym returns to Alameda Point on Sunday. Details on these and many more events at 94501.info. Don't forget, school is on break this coming week, so take extra care around our parks and playgrounds during the day. Also remember Monday, President's Day, so park programs will be closed. Also, no mail and the government offices will be closed. Thank you for your support of local news for Alameda. Join us in our effort by heading to alamedapost.com/memberships. Remember, you can find us on Facebook, Instagram, MSN, YouTube, Mastodon, Threads, Blue Sky, our very own subreddit. You can subscribe to us on Apple News and look for us on Nextdoor. Find the Postcast wherever you get your podcasts, or simply tell your smart device to play the Alameda Postcast podcast. I'm Scott Peeler, back next Friday with episode 142 of the Alameda Postcast.